I don't recognise you today without your hat.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've actually had a haircut, so I figured I'll leave it off. I've got tea as well, so it's just a different day. It's cold today as well.
Tea for me as well.
You're injured as well, aren't you?
Yeah, have you turned gay or something?
I've had a few too many nights out this week. I'm just like, I can't drink anymore.
Yeah, I'm proper injured at the moment. So the story goes, last pod I had a bad ankle, but it was just like a bit sore, nothing too major. But the weird thing is, and this has happened quite a few times in the last few years, I wake up in the morning and the injury's happened. So it's like it's developed overnight. So I get injured in my sleep. And I've always just put it down to some exercise I've done a few days before or something like that. You know, sometimes it's 2 days after you feel the effects of gym and running and biking or whatever, or football in the old days. Whereas now, this time, last time it happened, I ended up breaking my sesamoid bone in my foot, didn't I? And when I was on holiday, I remember I had the big boot. The sesamoid bone is basically the pad of your big toe. There's a bone that sits there and two tendons clip onto it, and it's just broken half. It's only very small. It's like a calcification more than a proper bone. But when you do it, it's horrible. But it healed. But I know since then I haven't done any exercise, like physical proper. And yeah, I woke up on, I think it was Thursday morning with a bit of a dodgy feel for a bit of a ligament, and it's just moved around and then it swelled up. So I went private and saw an injury physio. And I went and saw him. He got me in at 7 o'clock in the morning yesterday. And this is how efficient it can be if you play it right. He then sent the report over to me. I finished at 10 to 8. He had sent me the report whilst in the car, which was just in time for me to phone my GP reception, which opened at 8. I asked them, could they, I need to nurse, because basically he's questioning if it's like something worse than just like a little ankle problem, if it's something worse, because it jumps between legs as well, which is the weird thing. So it could be something else. So they're checking all the blood. So anyway, the nurse phoned me back. I sent the report over. She was like, yeah, we'll get you in for bloods. Bearing in mind, we're in a national blood tube shortage at the moment. So there's literally no blood tubes around, because I don't know where the supply's dried up, whether or not it's Brexit that's caused this or something else, I'm not sure. But across hospitals, we're like having to really skip back on what we test. Which, so to get the blood test, I was quite tricky.
There's random supply shortages across every single industry right now. You can't shut everyone indoors for 18 months and not expect everything to still get produced, as well as
make a point. You've touched on this before, actually, haven't you? In your 4Ps pod, you can't lock up, and because you're right, I guess if you've had lockdown for 18 months, or 18 months probably an exaggeration, 6, 7 months, 8 months of people not being working and shielding stuff. There isn't anyone there probably putting the tops on the bottles, because only machines can do so much. Like I thought, sandwiches got packed properly, but I was talking to one of my colleagues, his daughters, is currently, she puts the filling inside sandwiches at the moment. So she just goes, doop, and it moves on. But I honestly thought that would have been a machine now.
Yeah, and it's all got a knock-on effect, right? It's even goes right the way back to like the raw minerals, because even if you go, oh no, it's all automated. Yeah, but a lot of stuff needs to get dug out of the ground to begin with. So you need to manufacture it from the raw minerals, and then they need to get manufactured, and then they move along. And then, and so there's lots of things. It's almost like, it's like with any ecosystem, right? It's like going into an ecosystem and just going, I'm going to kill all the sparrows. And you think, oh, it's only the sparrows. Well, who cares about the sparrows? It's like, yeah, but what you've done now is destroyed the ecosystem and everything will now die. You go, well, why? It's like, right, well, there was these animals that ate the sparrows, and then the sparrows also kept down the bugs. So now the bugs are going to take over, just destroy the crops. All the predators are going to die because they got no sparrows to eat. So essentially what you've done is that entire ecosystem just implodes on itself because you took one thing out. And yeah, and for 18 months, we've had huge disruption across the entire world. So of course, there's going to be like the version of the sparrow is going to be there on various supply issues, whether it be blood bottles or meat or veg, whatever it might be. It's just, there's going to be problems, and you can't, and this is all very, very delicately balanced. We're trying to feed 8 billion people on the planet globally by shipping food and goods crazy distances, especially in the West, because we barely manufacture anything ourselves. So you're hugely reliant on China largely, where a lot of this stuff is going to come from. So of course you've got to expect that. I'm amazed, if anything, that the only real crisis we had was about toilet paper, and that was just self-inflicted. And now it's finally starting to rumble in that there's various in just about every single industry that I ever speak to someone in there. They're like, oh yeah, this, you can't get this thing. There's a couple of things always missing.
There's another thing as well, actually. So I'm obviously, one of my projects is buying big imaging equipment, and at the moment they're short of some sort of microchip. So I don't know what that does, but I think that's part of delivery, is what I believe. So there's none of them at the moment, so they can't deliver them. So I don't really understand to what extent. It's not a fundamental part of the actual machine because it's across all the machines. But maybe it could be as simple as the microchip to say this piece of kit belongs to that hospital, so it makes sure it gets there through customs. Because obviously we didn't make any of those; they all come from America, Germany,
Yeah, well,
etc.
weirdly, microchips there's a world shortage of microchips, and these microchips exist in just about every single product. It's essentially the brain of the product, it's the computer, and there's only 3 companies that manufacture 95% of the microchips. 2 of them are Asian, and 1's American, and they've just sold out. And again, their problem, it is the raw minerals.
No, you've touched on a very good point. I can't believe that we ended up just coming into that conversation because it's quite pertinent to life at the moment, and I think it'd be interesting to see how long it goes for, because we're really worried as like the NHS. We're very worried about this because at first line, to stop people from going into hospitals to have proper scans and stuff, your barrier, your triage is a blood test. It rules out so much stuff. Blood and urine are amazing to work out what's wrong and what happens in that body. It's ridiculous. You've got, yeah, but I think it's more, it tells a story about you. That's what you can do.
Yeah,
you
and it's awful if the machine was sat there and you're like, I would love to do the test, but I haven't got a file.
Yeah,
the cheapest part of the entire process is the bit you don't have, but it means you can't do it.
Absolutely. It's not like it's the needle, the sterile needle. It's just the blood tube, which physically all it does is it homes a bit of blood with a chemical in or something in to either separate it or to stop it from coagulating, just so a little needle can come in from the machine, take a tiny bit out. And it just shows how wasteful we've been, because I had a test.
Can't you whitewash them out?
Well, yeah, potentially. Yeah, because you're not going to put it into anything else. So potentially. Yeah, I don't know what the rules would be.
There probably it's going to get contaminated, I guess, but
they probably are recycling in some regard. But it's the stuff that goes inside, and maybe that's the shortage. I just don't know.
Right.
But anyway, it's interesting because we've told all GPs and stuff like that to like minimize how many tubes they take for blood tests. So I was really intrigued to see today, because the amount of blood tests they've tested for today, so many issues. It was about, on the screen, she scrolled down. That's how many it was. And she went through all the different tests I was having. It was like 30. I was thinking, how many tubes is this going to be? It was 2, 1 of each type. I was like, wow, that's amazing. She goes, oh, you don't need much. Obviously, we've pushed it right back. So she just has to make sure they're full. Because when I used to take blood when I was early daughters in my career, I used to take it sometimes. I'd take like 20 blood samples if it was a liver function test, proper liver one. Honestly, it was like honestly 20, and they had to give them a cup of tea and stuff afterwards because they lost like half a pint of blood from it. Yes. So it's strange. But then we're worried about this for the next few months. It's not going to be a short-term loss either. So that all ties in nicely with the lockdown. So we're behind on the minerals to get the process started, probably, like you say. But it's just plastic, so that doesn't make sense, does it? How are we short plastic?
I know. Well, that's the thing. It's just the most random things there'll be a reason. If you track it all the way back, there'll be some factory somewhere that maybe it got reallocated to do some COVID stuff, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do. And it was like, it's just tubes. They can survive without some tubes. There's like 1 billion tubes in the world. So we'll move on to this. They'll just pump out, I don't know, needles instead or whatever, like masks. I don't know. They reallocated loads of stuff, didn't they? And all these factories did other stuff, but then it was more profitable actually as well to take on government contracts to do like pandemic stuff instead of doing what their day-to-day was. So
I wonder if they went into alcohol gels or something like that.
Exactly.
It's a similar tubing, isn't it? You just think about it.
Yeah, literally, there'd be a reason, because whoever was making them before would still be wanting to make them and wanting to sell them, because it was going to be
the market hasn't gone down, has it? Let's be honest. Blood tests haven't gone less requirement for them.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, the probably is because a lot of people stopped going and stopped they were scared of the hospital, weren't they? So I don't know, but I can almost guarantee that there's supply shocks all across the world. And yeah, the microchips one I know a lot about because obviously that's in the tech world. So I listen to those guys, and so it's affected Bitcoin miners. They need microchips. So the supply on Bitcoin miners there's a load of meant to be delivered this month, but they've all been pushed back to February, March next year because there's no microchips. So then this isn't a short like shortage. They're pushing back 6 months. So it's a serious shortage, and because basically the manufacturer of the microchips are just going, look, we're out, and every single product pretty much that you use, you don't even realize it, but quite often like your toaster, your microwave, your oven, obviously your computer and your phone and all those kind of electronics, but yeah, like all hospital equipment, your TV, everything has a microchip in it, and so they all do different things and they have different levels of complexity, but they all just come from basically 3 companies, and they're just done. They're just like we're done. Like we can't ship anymore, so they're just pushing all orders back 6 months, and then that's gonna. This is the problem, right? These are always the consequences. Whenever this is what I wanted someone like, even when this happened 18 months ago, I wanted someone, if I was going to even slightly believe in it, I wanted them to stand up and just explain slightly what they expect the consequences were going to be. Not only they didn't, even if they were going to hide the amount of people that were going to die due to lockdown because they weren't going to get cared for and they were going to be isolated and all people were going to die at home with no care. Even if they hid that one, just to be honest and go, we are going to have supply shocks. We're going to have to probably ration food. You're going to have to be careful with various types of luxury goods, day-to-day goods. The price of goods is going to go up because there's going to be less of them, and it's a supply and demand thing. If they've at least said that and gone, look, so we're going to lock down, but this is the consequences, but we know it and we still think it's worth it, I'd have gone, all right, at least it sounds like you thought this through. But the way it was pitched was like, no, like if we lock down, we save everyone, we save lives, we protect the NHS. Everyone is safe if we do this. This is the good option. The bad option is not doing it. And it's like, no, both options aren't great. Yeah, both have risk. Not locking down, risky. Locking down, risky. Just be honest about the pros and cons of each, put it straight, and then at least people like me would have gone, this sounds like a well thought through business decision. So they were either treating us like children and not letting us into the information and just making it sound fluffy, just so we went along with it, or they haven't thought it through and they had no clue all this was going to happen.
See, I don't believe that's the case. I think forecasting what's going to come of the lockdown it's very difficult. In hindsight, it's very easy to look back and go, obviously this is going to happen, obviously it's going to happen. But you do have like the world-class economists and stuff like that working with the government, so you'd expect them to have, well, you forecast stocks and markets and economy and stuff, don't they? So you would be able to forecast to an extent what was going to happen. So really, did they not know about it? It's highly unlikely, isn't it?
Well, anyone can predict it, right? I predicted this 18 months ago. Like, so every single person I know that's a critical thinker knows that if you shut down the fucking economy and stop producing stuff, there's going to get shortages. It does not take a genius to add those links in, right? It's just freaking completely standard.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to shut down big kind of travel routes. And at the time, like, oh, look, China were most affected in the early days. They produce freaking 70% of the goods for the West. So if China goes into lockdown, and if they did lockdown for like a year, like freaking everyone else did, oh my God, we'd have been hit way harder. It's a good job they only locked down for 2 weeks in December, realized it was all, they overreacted and opened back up and got everyone back to work. If anything, that is saved everyone else, because like we were saying before on here, like we don't do anything in the UK and the US. We just send emails to each other. So you can send emails to each other at home and no one's missing the extra 50 that you didn't send because you're playing with your kids instead of working properly. No one cares because the productivity was virtually zero anyway. It's China and people that actually produce stuff that do serious work. Unfortunately, they carried on, so we didn't really notice it. But no, I actually do think, unfortunately, I think they may have discovered and gone through a lot of this. However, they had way too much of a a very biased lean against we have to reduce COVID deaths at all costs. And I think a COVID death, they valued that at like 100 and any other death as one.
Well, I think as well with what you're saying there, you definitely got some point. I feel though that the government were led by WHO and NICE and whatever other governing bodies were saying about the risk of the horrendous fallout from what was going to happen. So the government was very much pushed into it, weren't they? From an extent. And the chief medical officer and stuff like that was always preaching it like, we have to do this, otherwise everyone's going to die. So I think the government would have been reckless not to have done that, probably.
Yeah, it would take a strong government to not do it, because they all
very strong government.
The World Health Organization, and once they press the pandemic button, you're now seen as being like a
non-compliant
risk for not locking down and stuff, because your people are going to get infected and go elsewhere. But Sweden just gave them 2 fingers.
Well, they did, and we've seen the graphs there, haven't we? So
yeah, and now actually, weirdly, it's this week that Sweden announced formally that all restrictions for COVID are being lifted permanently.
Everything. Oh, really?
So they're not minding, the vaccine is available, and weirdly, a lot of people are taking them up on it, but 0 mandates. There's all the restrictions, because they had brought in restrictions like closing at midnight. I think you're only allowed 8 people on a table and stuff like that, which are all just nonsense. Yeah, people just shove tables together, and you order 4 drinks at midnight, and then you can go on till 2 a.m. And they were like, well, the bar's closed, but
you got a drink.
Doors open. Like, it's just it was just so everyone got around the rules anyway. So I think they knew it, and obviously their stats have been rock bottom for 18 months. All the predictions, all the models were wrong. So Sweden are just doing exactly what the rest of the world should have done, and not cower to the WHO and to all the pressure. Just done their own thing, let people be responsible, and they've just really ridden it all out, and they're out the other side of it now.
Yeah, it's good. And I want to pick you up on that point about working from home and not doing jack shit. I do so much work from home. I don't leave this office. But that's because I've got about 50,000 billion projects I've got to do, and I'm the only one that's doing them. As in, I actually got told the other day, I need to stop doing. You're doing everything. Stop doing it all. I'm like, well, sometimes you can't always delegate, can you? You get proven wrong. But yeah, I know what you mean though. If you're doing a job that you're very comfortable in, you've been doing it for years and years. If you think in the office environment when you're working, you always have downtime of chats, don't you? And it's really good for office morale, etc., etc. When you're at home, obviously your workload, it's still what your workload was. So if your downtime is going to still be downtime, isn't it? But it's when you're new in a role or you've got a big role, it's probably worse working from home because you start earlier, finish late, don't have lunch.
Yeah, it can be. I think you waste a lot of time on email and stuff and phone calls. It's little chats can be
little chat,
but they also are just so effective. Sometimes you're just walking over to like a developer or someone's desk and just going,
5 minutes.
What do you mean? And it's just like you clear up like a 3-day 50 email thread in just because you get to walk over, you see their face, especially sometimes when there's emotion involved or it's a bit heated or it's a disagreement or whatever. But yeah, I must admit, I almost miss, or I don't know, I just think it'd be a great differentiator now. If I was working in software again, everyone is at home and no one seems to have any plans of going back. I think it'd be quite easy now to have a big differentiator just to have an office and work like that. I think you would just work so much faster than all these disparate teams. I think once you've got a good team, you can go disparate. That was what I learned from building teams, working in software for 12 years. Once you've built a unit and you've built that morale, you can then afford to work remote because people know who each other is. When you come in remote immediately, it's hit or miss. Some people are going to just permanently hate each other, or you've got no
morale, have you? No relationships, have you? You need to have that.
Yeah,
we need that as humans, don't we? Like your boss, like it's nice when you know someone well, because then you can have that little chat with them going, that what you said in that meeting wasn't appropriate. You need to like really buck your ideas up. Like if you said that and you didn't know the person, they would think, oh, you're a bit horrible to me. But if you know that you've got a good relationship, you can just be open and honest, can't you?
Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah. You probably, I don't think you can beat having the same people, but what does is a massive benefit. If you're in what your example is, I agree. Being together be really useful. But for me, I can have, like today, for example, I had back-to-back meetings for 6 hours pretty much, and I would not have been physically able to do that with all those people in location. It would be absolutely impossible to have done it.
Another thing that I'm seeing though, is everyone's filling their day with Zoom calls, and I question how effective a lot of these are. And does everyone need to be in every meeting? It gives the illusion of busyness, but if you were actually in the office walking around, would you allow yourself to be dragged into as many meetings? You know, I used to fight to not go in meetings and used to ask like 5 questions before I would ever agree to accept an invite, because I know that's like it's another hour of a day just gone, and you just go, do I need to be there? Who else is in there? Well, he's in my team, he can do it then. Oh no, but he's not as good as you. Well, he doesn't need to go then, and I'll go instead. Oh no, but you won't do the work. One of us is going and we're not both going. So either he goes or I go, pick one.
No, I do see where you're coming from with that, but with what I've got to do, I see your point, and there definitely are some meetings in there that are unnecessary, but because of my specific role, because I'm over so many different departments, different specialities.
Everyone says I'm essential. Everyone says it.
No, I'm not saying I'm essential. What I'm saying is I've got to be, you need to be, it's like team meetings, but if there's a lot of teams, you need to be involved with them. Otherwise, you know, what else, how are you going to know about what they're getting up to? And then there's
a 2-minute call. You said, ask someone to send you the notes afterwards.
Yeah, I guess you could do stuff like that. But then there's also,
you have to listen to it all blow by blow. Just go, give me the 2-minute version of that hour meeting afterwards. I'll have a call with you at 5:05.
Yeah, so there'll be probably some legs in some of that, but then some of it, without going into detail, you couldn't do. You have to be there because it is accountability for some of it. I'm in a role where I'm very much a liaison person and project manager opposed to a doer now, like you say. I do have to do work when I'm going up the ladder to them people, but most of the stuff is collecting that, making sure they've done it all right, mopping up any mess, and then like doing the whole compliance and accountability up top. But again, we're heavily governed, aren't we, in the healthcare profession?
Yeah, it's classic middle management. I hate that stage of life. It's just so fucking draining and just life.
It is draining. But it's also quite fun as well. I've got quite a few exciting projects on.
Yeah.
But with some of them, you're absolutely right. Some of them I don't need to be on. Like some of the design team stuff. But then the trouble is, if you're not on them, you got to have some sort of oversight. And that's kind of that's probably my worst bit about being too much of a doer. I want to still be involved with some of the nitty gritty to make sure it's going right. When, like you say, you probably got to trust people.
Properly busy and get some real work to do, you won't be able to.
Real work.
The moment you're just fanning about, watching other people do work.
No, that's
pretending you're helping in the background, and you're not.
That's the worst assumption I've ever
heard. I've worked with people like you before. I just go into your diary and I delete half your meetings, and there you go. You're half your week's free.
That'd be nice.
Let's do that for 2 weeks and see if anyone misses you. I bet they don't. So now you got to do all this extra work I've got for you. Do some real work. I want some reports. I want you sitting in meetings being people's babysitters.
I like this. This is good. I like this. You need to look at my diary. I'll talk you through it.
I just randomly pick half the meetings and just delete them and go, I bet no one misses you, that you're not there.
Well, the thing is that, yeah, I actually did something really cool today about AI. That's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like work either.
AI, it's absolutely
another example of a meeting you shouldn't have been in.
No, because I've been in charge of building the workforce for it. That's the whole point.
For AI, you're going to build some Tesla bots walking around as nurses or something?
No, because you need programmers and stuff like that to do all the design work. It's not really AI, it's more machine learning. But that's the way the healthcare is going. For like, let's use one example, for example, like chest x-rays for early diagnosis of a certain disease. A machine can flag that. So it flags all them. So they get priority reports. So
wow, there's two. That, to be honest.
Not clinically. There's some trials out there. Maybe I may be wrong. In some other places they may do it, but this is one. But there's like two types of AI. It's continuing the process but helping and making it more efficient. And then there's changing the process. So, for example, the chest X-ray, the machine will flag it up to the doctor to say report it. The other version of AI is the machine does the report. Now they're two completely different elements there, aren't they? So it's exciting, and it's So basically, what my job is to build the business case up to get staff to be able to build the projects.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's very difficult when you haven't got any projects to claim the money from. So it's like the chicken and egg situation. So yeah. But anyway,
let's go to Boris and go to the money printer and go, I need a couple more bill.
Well, talking about Boris and the money printer, we're getting stung with NI, aren't we?
Oh yeah. It almost makes you laugh, the fact that got so many headlines. This is I was chatting with the other guys. This is like the magician, where he goes, look at this hand, look, and whilst he's doing the trick behind here, and that feels like that's the national insurance increase, where national insurance goes up by 1%, and everyone's like, how dare you increase national insurance by 1%? How's that going to affect people? And they go, oh, about £100 a year. So pretty much, unless you're right on the bread line, £100 a year, you're not really going to notice it. So £10 a month, like it's your Netflix subscription, like whatever. Who gives a fuck about that? And on the other side, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, inflation's 20%. Lol, like that, like everything you buy has gone up by 20%. That's going to cost you thousands per year, and no one knows about that one. And this is where the shortages are coming from, because at the moment it's just the raw minerals have all gone up by 20, 30, 40%. So as the manufacturers are building stuff, they're going to have to pass these costs on. Eventually that hits the shelves. People are seeing steaks and chickens all double in price at the moment. And that's partly due to shortages, but then also partly due to inflation. So they'll probably settle down. But yeah, I just find it hilarious. It's almost like it's planned, that they just go.
No, it's funny what you say. What I was bringing up for though is the fact that it was the messages I've seen is it's PR'd for putting money back into the NHS. They've used the NHS again, and that was what I thought. Was like, that's a joke, because it isn't a massive amount, but you know what? That's the start of it, isn't it? Before they raise other taxes, isn't it?
No, it is just laughable. This is why I actually saw the headline. I just lolled and just went to the next thing. It's just.
I haven't even looked at how much it was going to cost me. I just know it was 1.35%. It was just quite funny because they only gave like 1.5% pay rises to the NHS staff or something, didn't they? I haven't received any pay rise yet, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but it's only 1% on a small number though. So like your national insurance is like, I don't know, £1,000 a year. So it means the national insurance, it goes up by, actually, how much? Well, it said on average between 100 and 120 quid per person is what the yearly amount is going to mean.
Okay.
Nothing, and they go, oh, but this is going to raise money for social care, I think it said, or something. I don't know what social care is, or old people.
Oh yeah, they were doing that thing about if you have to go to a home, then you wouldn't have to pay for it over like 80 grand or something. So let's say we had to put mum and dad into a home, we have to sell everything around us to pay for it.
Yeah.
But then again, there'll be a caveat to that. It will be that it has to be a government one, not a nice one.
And even that's a scam anyway, because if you have no money, you don't have to pay. They get looked after. You only have to pay if you've got money. So they'll take everything that you have until you're at zero, and then they look after them for free forever. So it's just like right at the end of your life, if you've managed to accumulate like $500,000 worth of wealth or something, if you get unlucky and get dementia or something in your 60s and end up living to your 80s, they'll probably bleed that $500,000 out of you over those 20 years and take it all back. And then your inheritance is then zero. And it's weird because but we've got the NHS, it's free healthcare. It's like, well, it's not until you get elderly, you just need day-to-day care. That isn't covered. But it is covered if you're poor, weirdly. So if you've managed to just go through the system, didn't have any pension, didn't have any savings, and then the same thing happens to you at 65, and then you need full-time care through dementia or something for 20 years, they'll look after you for free for 20 years if you've got no money.
That's interesting, actually. How much benefits would you get if you had no pension? You'd probably get almost some people's pension anyway, wouldn't you, on benefits? Probably get a free house, wouldn't you?
State pension that you get regardless, yeah.
Do you have to pay 35 years of NI though to get that, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have worked. Yeah, so provided you've worked for 35 years during your time, then you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'll be knackered when Bitcoin goes to zero.
But even that, there's probably other benefits. There's like food stamps and there's all sorts of things, right? If once your income goes to a certain amount, they raise you up. But yeah. Bitcoin I wouldn't have paid my 35 years of national insurance.
No. So on the note of Bitcoin, then, so obviously I haven't had any time listening to any pods because I haven't been on the train, so I haven't done any listening. So I don't know what you discussed, but what I do know is obviously the 7th was a big day in Bitcoin world. It was El Salvador going live with having legal tender, wasn't it, in Bitcoin? It was now the currency of choice. And I was expecting a bit of a supersonic rise, especially with everybody thinking of buying $30 in, to celebrate. And yeah, obviously it took a turn for the worse. And I think I saw a few reports. I haven't read in depth in it, so please elaborate. But was it something about the wallets not working as well as they managed, or what they thought? But what I did see is a lot of videos of people buying Mackies with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you will regret that in the future.
I know.
It's almost like I wouldn't want to go to El Salvador right now because I wouldn't want to spend Bitcoin.
Yeah, we don't have to. Obviously, that everyone accepts Bitcoin and dollars, so
okay,
it's a dual currency and it's completely your choice. And yeah, it's so instead of it'd be a good mindset to get into, really, because instead of because obviously you still got to spend money there, right? So
yeah,
because I think I'm going to plan they've got an event in El Salvador in November. It's
nice.
a Bitcoin event, so I'm thinking of going there for that. Maybe spend a couple of months there or something. And yeah, I would quite like to live on a Bitcoin standard. So what I would do is
I know.
buy some additional Bitcoin with my pounds that I would have taken.
It's £2,000 or something, yeah.
Convert that into Bitcoin, put it onto my phone, and I can have I'd probably leave most of it in Bitcoin and then convert, say, £500 into Lightning. That's on the Lightning network instead, on layer 2, and then I would just use that £500 for day-to-day spends, and whenever it kind of got low, just keep topping it up. So it'd be great, and in reality, that would, even though it would feel bad, because technically I'm selling Bitcoin every time I buy something, it's like, well, that would have been I would have converted my pounds into dollars anyway. So if anything, whilst I'm there, if the price goes up, for example, then that would be great, because now my £1,500 or £2,000 worth of Bitcoin might go up to $2,500. So it's like, well, that's good. That's, I bought Bitcoin early and I got more for my money.
Do you want to set up like a car mechanics there or something? There, yeah, so you can just have loads of Bitcoin, where it's like you're doing a manual job, and so you can do it with your hands instead of having to buy things. So like, you could imagine if you were taking just pure Bitcoin for the next 10 years as your job.
Oh, yeah.
You think how much money you would end up making. Like, you would be millionaire, and instead of just living like just nicely, you'd be a millionaire.
And there's a famous Russell Okung is one of the highest paid American footballers in the NFL, and the last 2 years has demanded to be paid in Bitcoin, and they said okay. So he gets paid about between $10 and $14 million a year, and he's been getting paid that in Bitcoin. And in the last 2 years, Bitcoin is 10x. So he went from being like the 10th highest paid player to number 1, because he got paid 100 million last year, but because Bitcoin 10x, he got paid 10 million, but it 10x to 100 million. So yeah, so that's the trick. Yeah, this is the thing, right? People are still not quite tied into going, oh no, I need to get paid in fiat. Then I take a portion of that and put it into that. We should be thinking the other way around. You should be thinking, get paid in Bitcoin, and then live your day to day, convert the Bitcoin that you can afford to lose into some dirty fiat, and then you buy your day to day goods with it. That should be the way around we're thinking. Like, don't get paid in the bad money, get paid in the good money. And then, because the world hasn't quite caught up yet, some of the shops you have to go out and you buy it with fiat. But hey, you want the majority of your money in Bitcoin, surely?
Yeah, you would do. It's interesting. So what was with the big drop then? Why did that come about then?
I have a feeling it was coordinated. So I think, and I also think there's something about market dynamics here anyway, where it's You buy the rumor, sell the news. So we've had a couple of times where this has happened in Bitcoin before, where there's going to be a big event happen and everyone anticipates it so much. And in reality, when you look at the price of Bitcoin, we kind of went from about 40 to about 55K, didn't we, in dollars, leading up to the 7th. So there's a lot of anticipation there, but it built up slowly. And then, yeah, and obviously the 7th was never going to be probably a really big explosive day, even though people tried to make it one where everyone buys $30. And because in reality, that was never going to be enough. And rolling out in El Salvador, it's an historic moment, as opposed to, oh, now the price is going to pump. Like, why would the price pump, right? This is getting rolled out to 6 million people in a relatively poor country. They're all getting $30. They're going to actually try and spend this $30 or convert it to dollars. So if anything, these people are going to be sellers of Bitcoin, right? The way I phrased it with the guys on the 4Bs is, I think there's a lot of El Salvadorans that will be treating that free $30 worth of Bitcoin like we do the shitcoins on Coinbase. You just do the thing, just go through the process of getting the thing, and then you straight away switch it to what you think is real money. So in our mind, we earn the shitcoin super quick. We get the $3, convert it straight into Bitcoin. I've got a feeling if you were sat in El Salvador, where you're 50 years old, you've got no clue what the fuck's going on. You've heard a little bit of rumors on the TV, and then someone just tells you, look, just download this app, put your details in, $30 will appear on it, and then all you got to do is click here, here, and here, convert it to dollars, and now you can go buy some food in your shop. You're like, oh, great, that sounds good. So I've got a feeling a lot of people would have done that.
That's clever. That's exactly what's happened. Of course it has.
Yeah.
Because you can't give a population you're never going to have full buy-in anyway. Even when dollars is the dollar, I'm sure there's some people that go, I'd rather. Well, the people do, don't they? They transfer money in other means, don't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds quite funny. So basically, you gave a load of money to sellers, they're going to sell. So obviously the price is going to go down.
Yeah, but it went down so violently though, because if it was purely that, then it would have taken like a week or so for people to get the app working, download it, and then switch it. But it happened Bitcoin went down by 10K. It went down from, was it about 52K to 42K in 5 minutes? That is a violent dump, and to do that to Bitcoin is, that was what I think about 17 to 19% or something I saw reported. The shit coins went down by 25 to 30%. They crashed like almost doubly as hard. But that was a couple of 100 million worth of Bitcoin being dumped on the market all at once. So someone did that on purpose. And I think ultimately it wouldn't surprise me if it was a shitcoiner or a banker that just wanted to ruin El Salvador Day. They just wanted to have the article written that they didn't want us to be to celebrate El Salvador Day, because so many Bitcoiners were like, we want all those El Salvadorans to get that $30, and then for us to pump the price just a couple percent. So the people that do hold it and don't convert it have $31, $32, $33. Now suddenly they'd be telling their mates, haha, you converted yours at 30, I've got 35. And then if we can keep going and get them 40, get them 50, get them 60, then they become Bitcoiners now. Yeah, that's what to become a Bitcoiner. I think really you also need to see some gains. And I think people just wanted to try and destroy the experiment and go and punish the people that held the $30 by going, haha, the ones that sold it straight away, the ones that held it only had 25 left instead of 30 if they kept it in Bitcoin because it dumped 20%. And you're like, all right, it's kind of funny. You did get us on that one. But it's a bit of a shitty thing to do. But it doesn't really matter in the long scheme of things. It's just a bit of bad PR for the day. But I'm sure there was a billionaire somewhere chuckling away to himself, watching all the headlines coming out that El Salvador launches Bitcoin down 17%. I'm sure he just loved that headline. It's like, even if we just had a -1 day, -5 day, it wouldn't have really been news. It was not even worth putting the price on. But because it was the biggest dip in 6 months on the biggest day of Bitcoin, for the last year, it's just it's just
that's funny.
Too coincidental to be a mistake. This is and the fact it happened in a 5-minute period, that is someone purposefully just going, I want the news today to be negative, bang it down. And then interestingly, it could have just been classic price manipulation as well, because the price dumped 10K and instantly rebounded 5. So it could have been a smart billionaire dumping a load of Bitcoin at 52. It goes down to 42. He buys it all back, and then it pumps back to 47. And he sat there having, another 15% more Bitcoin or something. So it could have just been a genius trade. But and ultimately, this is always the thing. We never know. And unless we can actually track down the guy that did the order and go, what the fuck were you doing? He's the only one that knows,
Yeah.
Everything else is just speculation. It's just guesswork.
That's insane. Well, it's interesting because, I said I've been working on a family member, and I got a message saying, "Oh, tried, first attempt didn't go too well, but fair dues. You tried." So coming round to the idea,
which was that mean?
Basically, he obviously seen the report about it dumping price on Bitcoin Day, basically El Salvador Day.
Yeah.
And his report wasn't like a laugh, like I'd expected. Told you, scam. It wasn't that. It was fair dues. It's tried, isn't it? As in, first attempt didn't go to plan. But he's obviously not thinking about why the physical happened. But he's going the bad news, obviously from the IMF, wasn't it? As well, they put some news out, didn't they? Some contradictory Bitcoin thing.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
So that's why he thought it's gone down. So obviously confidence was lost at the same time. But it was like, fair dues, it's obviously growing, isn't it? And it's news to people. So by talking to people, they start seeing the word and start thinking, oh, that's that scam thing that Tom keeps talking about. I know, honestly. It's a currency now, Jesus. Like, probably start thinking. It's just interesting how the behaviour is changing already.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, because obviously it's the IMF that El Salvador have purposefully given two fingers to. They're the ones. they're the ones that control and have been bribing countries to lock down using dollars that they've printed through the Fed. And so they obviously make a lot of money in El Salvador by selling them dollars for goods. So they give them worthless little bits of paper and they get real goods and services back. It's the greatest scam of all time. And that's why America are the world power at the moment. And El Salvador are just fed up. They're going, we don't get anything for this. We get your worthless money and you get our goods and services. Well, this is ridiculous. Like, we don't want to use your money anymore. It's just only serving you. It doesn't serve us. Like, we'll never get out of poverty because every year you keep giving us less dollars for our goods and services. And they go, well, and it's just, there's nothing we can do about it. So they've moved on to a Bitcoin standard. So of course the IMF comes out and goes, that was reckless. You've moved on to a really volatile asset in Bitcoin. And they were the ones, I think, that published this minus 17%. This proves that El Salvador were wrong. It's like, we're less than 1 day into this experiment. How about you leave it a little bit more time, IMF, to see if Bitcoin wins? Because I got a feeling, well, we can 100% guarantee if we fast forward from September 7th this year to September 7th next year, the US dollar would have lost 20% of its spending power. We can 100% guarantee that because that's just what they're doing. And that's the plan that they have. They're going to print another 6 trillion. That's all in Biden's little dumbass plan. Let's see where Bitcoin is. Let's see where Bitcoin is. We started off not in a good place. We started on minus 17% in the first couple of hours. That already rebounded. And even now, we're 24 hours later, right? And we're nearly totally recovered, aren't we? I think of that 17%, we're probably, about 13 of it is back or something. We're still 4 or 5% down, maybe a little bit more. So that's in 24 hours, right? So let's just see where we are in another 360 odd days. And if Bitcoin carries on as it has typically year to year, it tends to be up 200% every year. So if El Salvadorans end up 200% up instead of 20% down, that's going to be a pretty, that's categoric proof, really, of what is the better form of money. And that'll be the best way to educate people on the island as well, because just giving them free Bitcoin and everything really works. You are just trying to stimulate the economy, just giving everyone something for free, just so hopefully they just start buying their mangoes and their shopping and their taxi fares with it. But what will really start driving it home is the people that do adopt it and choose to hold that Bitcoin over the next year, they will become wealthy. They will hold their value. Sats will become very valuable. The people that went, no, I don't like this Sats thing. I just want to keep converting into dollars. Even when someone pays me in Bitcoin, I convert it straight into dollars. they will notice that they are not competitive, and the businesses they compete with will start to push ahead. And the only differentiator they had was they accepted Bitcoin. You accepted dollars. And
Well, they'll realize that. Yeah, they're realizing they're after.
And they will. They're entrepreneurs. This is the thing. Like, people in poor countries are naturally entrepreneurs because loads of people work for themselves. They work cash in hand. They don't rely on much help from the state. They are very independent people. There aren't big benefits and handouts in poorer countries. It's very much no, you need to make your own way. So when someone starts to make their way and they're successful, everyone just goes, how the hell did he do it? He's like, oh, he's the one that accepted Bitcoin on the street. So naturally, everyone just goes, right, I'm converting my dollars into Bitcoin. The price of those ones go up. My dollars keep going down. The mango that I got for $3 last year now costs $4. This is, I need to keep earning more dollars just to stay ahead. It's like, yeah, it's inflation. But with Bitcoin, it's less. Like, that mango that cost 1,000 sats last year, well, now I can get the same mango, but for 500 sats. It's going the other way. This is amazing. It's like, yeah. Bitcoin's deflationary and fiat is inflationary. It's just like, it makes complete, like, if you actually just understand money, you don't even need to watch it play out. It's just obvious. But a lot of people don't understand money, and I don't blame them. So it's just going to take a year for it to play out. And I think if we fast forward a year's time in El Salvador, I would probably reckon at the moment, Bitcoin versus fiat transactions, it's probably 5% Bitcoin, 95% fiat, even though the choice is there. I reckon if we fast forward a year, I reckon we're 80-20 in favor of Bitcoin by this time.
That needs to be a stat you pull. You need to find out to work that out now. And then you can do that, because that would be really interesting.
Yeah, well, I think they are tracking it, because unfortunately, one of the downsides is they do have there's an app. There's a Chivo app, it's called, or Chivo. That's the government app that accepts the dollars and the Bitcoin. But you can also accept any old app as well. But yeah, I'm sure El Salvador will be tracking this stuff, because people still need to pay their taxes and all that kind of stuff. So when all the reports get put in, they'll probably have all the breakdowns of how much fiat I have, how much Bitcoin I have. So
Panama's next up, isn't it?
Unfortunately, I think they've gone shitcoin straight off.
No way.
I saw that announcement, and they El Salvador kept it nice and clean, and just they stayed on Bitcoin, but Panama seems to be infiltrated with shitcoins. Weirdly, Panama's not even a real country anyway. It's
just part of. Is it part of what, America or Mexico? I remember it from Prison Break.
Yeah, and it's the Panama Papers, isn't it? Where there's all the fake companies and the shell companies all exist there. So it doesn't really have a real an economy. I don't even know how many people live there, but I don't think it's very many. So it doesn't surprise me that it's probably, if you're going to pick a place that is backhand deals, and if you're rich, you walk in and you can make anything happen if you're rich if you walk in there, right? You just go, I have this company over here and I need to make the money disappear, and you throw an accountant some money, he goes, don't worry.
It's gone.
I
want money.
Yeah, they just set up big offices for you, and weirdly, there's a good film on Netflix about it where they literally employ loads of Panama locals, and they're all signing papers, like sending emails, and this random woman that can barely work a computer was the chief executive of 20 companies worth 6 billion, and they interviewed her and just like, do you know what you do? And she was like, no. It's like, you're the CEO of 15 companies worth 6 billion. She's like, am I? And she doesn't know. She's a fake CEO, because the requirements say to have your business in Panama, you need to have your CEO, 4 of your exec team here. So they just give a load of people random titles, pay them nothing, and get them to sign bits of paper. So legally, you've passed it looks like your company is HQ'd there, but in reality, no, the real directors and stuff are somewhere else working for a different shell company, actually running the business. But legally, if this woman actually just turned around and went, I want to sell my company, she actually could sell the company, and she's worth 6 billion. Legally, she is worth that, but she doesn't understand that she is, so she would never know how to do it. So that's Panama, right? It's so it doesn't surprise me that some shitcoiners have gone in there, got high up in government, and gone, look, here's a couple of $100 million. For some good PR, can you say that my shitcoin is now
Well, because you don't want to be associated with Panama anyway. You don't want to be associated with them, do you?
What's that?
It's probably not. It's not the best sort of place to be associated as the next Bitcoin to push it on, is it? You need somewhere legit, nice, and the next one needs to be somewhere else. You know, like, I don't know.
I think it will be. It probably will be South America. It'll be around there. So Argentina have been sniffing around it, but then also Belarus. So it's the smaller economies that are struggling and have already probably come off their own currency and are now on a fake US dollar standard. I want a bit of independence. They might try and do that. So especially as countries are realizing that they're using the dollar secondhand, but they're getting hyperinflated. So their countries are already poor, already on the breadline, and then 20% of inflation happens on your dollars, which can just suddenly just decimate a country. If everyone was only surviving on 10%, 20% just wipes them out and puts them all into the red. So yeah, they're desperate and they're looking for options. And Bitcoin sat there now. And the great thing is El Salvador have put out the blueprint. This is how you do it. And there's a number of people that in Bitcoin and in El Salvador that helped do all that, do all the legal papers, get all the legal documents put together, and all the bills and stuff that they have to go through the courts to pass it as a law. And they've said they'll open source it, and if any other countries want access to it, they can, and then they can just copy it and just tweak it for their own. So, so once you've done something once, right, that's say 80% of the work is done. Now, if anyone wants to do it, you go, look, have these. You just need to do 20% of editing to make it relevant for your country, and then you're good to go. And and this is the and these are the problems we had. We rolled it out, 6 million people downloaded it in one day. It crashed to our servers, and everyone thought it didn't work. It's like, no, you rolling out an app to 6 million people in one go is not necessarily too sensible, unless you're really gonna ramp it up. Really, probably spread it over 2 weeks and like let a couple of 100,000 people on a day or something.
Yeah, well, there's the lessons learned. If you did it to Britain, well, I suppose most people will have it because we are trickling in, aren't we? That's the point.
Yeah, and even like freaking hell, on that day when the mass selling was going on, a lot of the exchanges went down. So that's a sign that on very high traffic days, even the companies that have been around for the longest, Coinbase went down. I think Kraken went down, and I think in reality, sometimes they say they go down, but I think they pulled the plug because the price was going down so fast that what can happen is lots of slippage on the price, and a lot of people can get wrecked, and then sometimes their order books can get messed up, and the price of Bitcoin might accidentally go down to like $500 or something. And what ends up happening, someone's got a load of orders down there, and their algorithm was wrong. The price of Bitcoin is not $500, but their chart said it did because it just freaking shit itself. And then someone buys 10 million pounds worth of Bitcoin at £500 a coin, and then all the price recovers. And then after all the dust is settled, they have to look at the order books and go, oh shit, we sold 1,000 Bitcoin for £500 a coin, and now the price is back within like 7% of what it was yesterday. And they're like, oh shit, we need to honor this. We've lost tens of millions. So what they tend to do is just like the normal stock market, they pull the plug and just go, too volatile, pull the plug out, let everyone calm down, and they put the plug back in.
That's interesting. And then just going back to what we said earlier about the magic way, the magic hands. Have you noticed, admittedly, I don't watch the news all that often, but I normally get what's going on in the world via headlines. I've noticed that the Taliban's been a bit muted recently. Everything I've got is about NHS and vaccines getting rolled out to healthcare professionals and stuff. So I haven't seen much else about the Taliban this week. So that's old news now, I guess, isn't it?
They're getting rebranded into heroes, from what I can see.
Oh, well, they're nice now, aren't they?
I can't, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're not. Well, that's the thing, though, is it? It's not, though, is it?
No, the Taliban are the ones.
They're the same.
They made them into complete evil monsters. They were the ones that held up and were made responsible, and technically proven to be responsible for doing 9/11, and then terrorizing Iraq and Afghanistan for years. And all those horrible videos of them beheading American soldiers that they caught. We all saw those things. And and now we've left them in charge of a country. The head of the Taliban has a Twitter account. He tweets.
Although that's insane. That is.
He tweets out.
Do you follow him?
No, I should follow him. He tweets out memes. Like they're laughing. They send out TikToks and stuff of them dancing around with the American equipment.
What do they?
Yeah, because they left $85 billion worth of equipment behind, didn't they?
That's clever.
Yeah, because they just left in the middle of the night. So they have helicopters, trucks, guns. They have night vision goggles.
My God.
They went down as a big party. They got a load of the big trucks, the American trucks, got all the army gear on, and they're American trained as well, the Taliban now, because they pretended to be just normal Afghans. So the American army trained them all, and you can tell how they're holding the guns. Someone did a really good before and after. They went 20 years ago. Here's the Taliban kind of holding old AK-47s, and they're holding them, and quite often they have their finger on the trigger, right? So they're doing it, and it's what an amateur does because they think I'll be ready, but no pro puts his finger on the trigger. If you watch any American soldier, he puts his finger along the barrel, so it's ready to go to the trigger quickly. But if anything happens, he gets knocked or something, he doesn't accidentally fire his weapon. Now you watch the Taliban, they've all got the new weapons because obviously the Americans left them behind, and they hold the guns properly, and they're holding them in the right direction. And you put the before and after of the Taliban before, the Taliban now. It's we've given them a load of equipment and we've trained them how to use it. Now, if you were to try and start the same war that you started 20 years ago, they're a lot more badass now than they were before. Yeah. They're a serious force to be reckoned with. You can still drop drones on their heads, but they left a load of drones there as well.
Well, of course, they'd have left. And the trouble is, it's not about what they've left; it's the technology they've left, which they're humans as well. They will invest in all that stuff and work out how to replicate it.
Yeah. Well, they've been they've been paying people to come in because another funny thing is the president we left in there, or the Americans left in there. The last thing he did, he was one of the first ones on the first plane out. He took $150 million worth of cash with him. He packed a load of bags and took it. And now he's hiding in America with all the money. He literally, and that money is stolen. It's out and out stolen. It was supposed to be spent in Afghanistan, and he just stole it for himself. It's just so funny. And then there's a load of the Taliban got into the government building, and they were in the gym, and they're obviously all in their traditional wear, and they don't know how to use gym equipment. So they're all just smashing the weights machines wrong, but they're just laughing, they're just filming each other. And you're just what is going on? What is and the fact that they're sharing it, and the people and the Taliban are on Twitter and they're sending out memes and posting stupid videos. I'm this obviously is being allowed, right? This is they've cancelled Trump. He isn't on Twitter. He's not allowed to tweet. He's a terrorist because he incited violence on January 6th and caused the Capitol riots, supposedly. Whereas the Taliban, who didn't just incite something, they fucking did 9/11, right? And they're on Twitter memeing. And I just go, there's obviously they must want them to have Twitter accounts, and I think they want them to become more human, because I'm starting to like them a little bit, because weirdly, the more you get to know your enemy, they are just human beings, right? You obviously completely disagree with them on a fundamental level, where they want death on us, but then we did wish death on them. So it's kind of understandable that they wish death the other way. But then I suppose the argument is you started it. It really is a children's argument here. But it's you started it was you crashed some planes into a big building and killed a lot of people. That's quite a big you started it.
Yeah, it is.
But still, it's the more that you get to know them and the more videos they share and the more little tweets they send out, they just become human beings. And you're they're all right. And it's I shouldn't be thinking, they're all right. I'm meant to hate these guys. And I'm starting to go I don't. And I've actually started listening to a podcast, actually. It's called The Line. And it's actually a really good podcast where it's a guy interviewing a load of Marines and Navy SEALs that went into Afghanistan after 9/11. And they explained some of the things that they did. And, which is one of the stories that he was telling was it was his first couple of days in Afghanistan. It was his first trip out. And they had a they had a source in Afghanistan that was giving him information. Went, yeah, there's a load of guys in the town that want to kill American soldiers, but they don't have any guns. They're looking for guns. So he just went, tell them that we buried some guns over here. So they come and get them, basically. So what the American soldiers did is they went to that area, dug a hole, put a load of guns in there, took all the bullets out, so they're unloaded. Then they waited for them. All these lads come from the town. They dig up the guns. They wait until they're holding them. They jump out and just annihilate them all, just shoot them all.
Wow.
And you just go, and the interviewer was like, wow. And he's like, yeah, it was a great day. And you're just looking at it going, that is so confusing, because like, you've given them the weapon. Apparently the source said they did want to kill you, but maybe they just wanted guns to protect themselves. You don't know what they wanted the gun for. Technically, he had a gun in his hand when you shot him, but you knew it was unloaded, but you still executed him. And you're just going, I am so confused here. And then and it just straight away goes. And then the whole main story of the thing is that they run into the wrong house. They execute this dad by accident. And there's a 14-year-old lad in there. And he takes a couple of shots, but they take him out. And then they take him into this interrogation room. And there's a medic there. And the medic's working on him, trying to save his life. He has to literally, he can't breathe. So I think he got shot in the lung or something. So he puts something in his throat to help him.
Tracheostomy.
Yeah, they do it live in the field. They're giving him ketamine for
adrenaline.
Yeah, and to ease the pain and to knock him out a little.
No, morphine.
Where did they say ketamine? But I don't know.
They
actually say ketamine. I was like, thinking horse tranquilizer or going out drug. It's tranquilizer, isn't it? So it could be morphine or whatever. But anyway, it's just on-field drugs. But then one of the Marines walks up to him, the chief Marine walks out, takes his knife out and just stabs him in the chest a couple of times. And everyone's like, what the hell just happened? And then they all take turns in taking selfies with this dead 14-year-old lad. And so the entire series then is the chief Marine getting prosecuted for what he did. And he denies, he says that didn't happen. The other Marines in the room say it did. And it's just, it's hard to listen to. And you just go, wow, like, who is the enemy here? Yeah, it really, who are the bad guys? Because when you hear the stories from our guys that went in, they are not good stories.
No way. That's disgusting.
Yeah. There's another story actually where they were looking at one of the towns and they'd blown up their water supply. So what the Marines did, they had a load of snipers around the river, because the only source of water was the river. So they knew the Taliban or ISIS were in the town and they were basically starving them. So they had to run out. But obviously they were starving the local people as well, the civilians. So the civilians would try and run out and get close to the water. And what the snipers would do is just shoot close to them to scare them so they ran back. And this one sniper said, again, it was the same guy that did the stabbing. He said he did a warning shot. This old guy walked up and he said he got too close. He was really close to the water and nearly got his thing in the water. Obviously, all he wants is a drink. Old fella, said he was like in his 60s or 70s or something. He was walking looked quite frail. So he got quite close. So he looks down and he fires a warning shot well to his right. This guy just panics, just ups and starts fleeing. And then he just hears two shots from further down. And it's his chief commander. And then he comes in over the radio going, "You missed him. I got him." And it's an old fella, civilian, did not have a gun, just wanted some water from the river. They banged him twice in the back. And he said he just saw all red over his back. And he's like, no wonder they hate us. No wonder they hate the West. Like, we literally went there doing this, like starving out a whole town and denying them access to water. And even shooting, not shooting like civilians if they just tried to come and get some water.
That's absolutely disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called The Line. And this is not fake news. This is like the actual Marines that were there are on the podcast telling it, and they are so straight. They just because they're Marines, like, they literally even talk about their training where they went, where there's 300 Marines turn up on this day and only 7 finish. There's a big bell in the middle of the thing, and you ring the bell and put your hat down. And at the end of the 7 days, there's only 7 people there, and you're the 7 that goes on. And they just do this every week. And ultimately, what it is to see, can you push through so much pain, so much abuse, and just follow orders with not questioning it. So the kind of guys that come out at the end of this are literally, like, when you say Marines are the highs of the hard, they really are. Because like the 300 guys that turn up every week, they're already the pretty tough guys, right? You wouldn't go off to Marine training without thinking, going through some shit. But then only 7 out of 300 survived in the course that this guy did. You go, wow. He's like he walked out of training, and he walked past his parents. They didn't recognize him because he was all swollen and like his body was all cold. And he said he had elephantitis or something in his legs. Like he'd been cold and wet and just beaten up the whole 7 days. And then his own parents didn't even recognize him. They're like, "Oh my God, you okay?" He's like, "Yeah." And like, "Why didn't you quit?" He's like, "I can't quit. No, nothing was going to make me quit. I'd rather die and quit." And then it's like, that's the attitude they want, because then when you're on the battlefield, no matter how injured you are, how tired you are, how hungry you are, you're the guy that's going to keep fucking going. they're machines. But yeah, it's interesting. Wow. If you just want to be even more disillusioned, listen to The Line.
The Line, that's it. No, quality, right. That's time.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah, leave it there. Have fun staying poor, bitches.
Have fun staying poor, bro.